All right. Let's see. Last we left off, we had talking pigeons, General Kenobi pigeons,
Nice.
and you can't interact with the other ones until that dialogue is done. And we added a little bit of juice with the animations and made the UI follow the pigeons around. Okay, cool. So our little list of goodies here. We need to do choices, typing out of the text. That's also fairly easy to do. The speaker name, we'll get there. Rich text is actually really easy. Persistent choices and time-based choices. Time-based choices is quite simple with the coroutine. Persistent choices, where they actually remember something. Hmm. It could
That is a
be
tricky one. I've been struggling with that one.
it could be a bull in the scriptable.
Yeah, I usually use indexes, and then depending on the index, it remembers like what the previous one said.
Hmm.
It's a very interesting one.
That, or if you've got multiple scriptable objects, you could just store the last scriptable object and play that back again. It just depends on how we're doing it.
Yeah, I mean we can store the choice. Um,
Hmm.
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
can store a
yeah.
history
If you
of the
go,
choice and just query that.
hmm.
I think that really depends on the type of game it is, though, as well, like how the choices affect gameplay to kind of figure out what the best architecture is or the right kind of solution is for that. Ending choice visual. I got what are we even trying to get at there? Ending choice visual. Oh, just feedback to show that it's the last choice. Okay, that it's a finalizing choice.
To exit
Soundbite.
exit the dialogue.
Yeah, to exit the dialogue because you don't want to
Okay.
accidentally exit the dialogue when you're
Yeah.
still trying to like go back, interact with some of the other choices, perhaps.
Yeah, that would be frustrating.
Yeah. Oh, and a way to show if the dialogue has been visited before, if you've already gone through that chain.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think a lot of this depends on having choices in the first place. So let's do that. Choices. Okay. So I think with this kind of thing, to try and help my mind figure out what the best architecture is for this, I'll just start with some UI to kind of get a visual to it, and then figure out how that basically transcends to code or translates to code. So, got a speech bubble, got the dialogue, the UI. Whoopsie. Yeah, so that's what our speech bubble looks like, and we need to do choices. So our option is to do choices that are attached to that dialogue, sort of in the world, or to make it a separate HUD element. What do we think?
Attaching it might destroy the nice little text box.
To make it
So
a
maybe,
HUD element.
yeah, maybe separately. Yeah.
Oh wait, we have dialogue choices here. Ha. Turns out we
Does
already started this.
oh.
I should watch my previous video. Okay, so yes, we have a box for dialogue choices. And just some text, okay. So we can get rid of, no, we'll leave that. Let's just do a empty for choice. And let's stretch that to the width of the parent and drop our dialogue in that and just stretch it to the size of the parent. And then we're going to do a vertical layout group. We're going to position it in, let's do middle center, and then we're going to control the width. So that's going to then go and stretch out the width there. And we do not want to force expand the height. And then we want, yeah, no spacing, and that should be fine. And we can reduce the height of that. Let's maybe give it a bit of a background. And just drop that below the text. And then the dialogue itself, let's give it a little bit of spacing. And we're going to make that middle aligned, vertical aligned in the middle. Now we can just create multiple choices. And let's add a little bit of padding, or a little bit of spacing to that. Yeah, 5, 7. That looks good. Yes, that just gives us a little bit of spacing there. And we can also actually use a content size fitter and fit this to the size of the content rather. So the vertical fit. Oh, right, of course the BG is not part of the content. So with the background, we're going to add a layout element and ignore the layout and scale it to the full size of the parent and drop that at the top there. Then if we add more elements, the parent just gets scaled to that as well. But also, if we only have one, then only one shows up there. And then we can add a little bit of padding over here. And for the content, let's just, yeah, there we go. Okay, so we do want to expand that and control the width of the child. There we go, dynamically sized box. Okay, then for the choice, we're going to need a button component, and we'll just use the background element as the target graphic. So basically when you hover over it, the background element is going to be lightened for some feedback. We can also change the highlighted color a little bit, maybe make it a bit yellow so that it's quite obvious. And it is non-interactive. Why is that? Choice is a button. That is a raycast target. The dialogue. Let's see if we make that not a raycast target. No, we have a graphic raycaster. Nothing else seems to be blocking. Might be. Let's turn that off. And if we use that instead, no, it's definitely not interacting. We add image component. Nope. So let's find out what is it, what is blocking. Can always do canvas graphic raycaster. No, not happening there. Let's just add a button. Okay, that button definitely interacts. If we move that button under there, it still interacts. So why? That is weird.
So you added a button component to a non-button element.
Yeah, which
Ah,
shouldn't be an issue.
yeah. Considering the button itself only has a button component.
Hmm. Just gonna write a script for this. We're gonna need one anyways for the button itself. So UI dialog choice. It might just be a visual effect, so that's why I want to just put in a script and log it out and see as well before we lose our mind trying to fix something that might not be broken. Public void select choice. And we're just gonna log out. Choice selected, and we can give it get select index. Yeah. We just want to know if it's choice 1, 2, or 3, basically. So we select that choice, and let's just run it again. Okay, so yes, it is just a visual thing then.
So that is
the button
interesting.
working.
So it completely scraps the visuals when you add a regular component to a non. Okay, that's interesting.
Maybe it's because I don't have a sprite in here. Let's just use that sprite. It's targeting that one. Yeah, it's just not doing the color tint on the target graphic. Interesting. Either way, all good. We are getting feedback, so that is good. Yeah, that's better. Okay, then basically this choice can become a prefab now. Just drop that in there. Call it UI dialog choice. And I usually like to have a folder for UI, just because there could be a lot there. Delete that one out. And then actually we can just move this component onto this. And then we don't need background. Let's just double check. Yes. Cool. Then we're going to need an object pool for the UI choice Do we have the object pool script in here? We do not. Yeah, create a new folder over here for utility, and I'm going to go steal it from another project. Okay, object pool script is in now. So let's create another folder here for object pools. And then create a new script for pool. And it's going to be UI dialog. And with this object pool script, you can just inherit from object pool and give it the type that we want it to be. It's a object pool of UI dialog choice, and that's the end of that. The object pool script will take care of managing the pool, basically. Getting it, if there aren't any available, then create a new one, and if they are available, then return that one. And when you return it, just set it inactive and reparent it. What's nice with this object pool is that it will return the exact type that you need it to be as well. So we're not going to make it a singleton. It's just going to be directly referenced. And the prefab we want to use is UI dialog choice. What we do want to do for this specific object pool though is we want this image to not show up if there's nothing in the pool to begin with, or nothing being used at this time. So what we can do is override, and we're going to override get from pool, and we're also going to override then return to pool, and then over here that will get it from the pool, and we can say pool, or rather let's go int pool count, and that's going to start off at 0. Then when we get it from the pool, we're going to do pool count plus, and when we return it to the pool, we're going to say pool count minus, and we're going to fire off a function for void check pool count, and we can say if the pool count is above 0, or now rather let's say if it equals to 1. So we don't want to we don't want to repeat the code if we don't have to. So it's only when the first one gets popped then we want to show that UI image. Otherwise, if it's 0, else if pool count, let's see, pool count is equal to 0, then we're going to hide that image. So we're just going to do a serialized field for image, and we're going to say, come on, get the thing, okay. There we go, using reagent.ui. And then we can do bg image dot enable equals true and false. If we want to be a little bit fancy, we can say using DD tweening rather, and go bg image dot do fade tweens the graphics alpha. Yeah, that's cool. So we want to fade that to 1. Or what is it actually? It's 0.5. So fade it to 0.5 for a period of 0.2 seconds. Otherwise fade it to 0. Cool. We just need to call this. So we increase it and we check the pull count and we can apply the fade if necessary. And this fade can be set to 0. Now it is still a raycast target actually, so maybe the correct way to do this is actually to do a canvas group rather. Yeah, background image fade. Let's do that. So it's still going to be the exact same API over here. We're still fading out the canvas group. But what we want to do then is complete. Going to do a lambda expression here and a canvas group dot interactable equals true and canvas group dot block raycast equals true, and over here we're just going to flip that and make that false. So that'll just fade the canvas then in and out. Then we won't have an issue with the UI invisibly blocking anything. That needs to be there. Then we can switch that off and switch that off. Okay, so now we need some kind of management script or a script to deal with the dialogue choices that can communicate with whatever we've got here, the dialogue controller. That gets the dialogue interaction. So dialogue interaction is what we need to communicate with. UI speech bubble. Let's just check how UI speech bubble is set up. Okay, on dialogue interact performed, add listener set dialogue. Okay, cool. We can do a similar thing then. Or we can reference it from the speech bubble. No, the speech bubble is going to be moving around. Yeah, let's do UI dialogue choices. Yeah, I suppose. That's not the best naming, but we'll deal with it. Okay, so UI dialog choices. We're going to steal some of the logic from here. So we can read the dialog and show up any choices. See, next dialog gets the next dialog there. I wonder if UI speech bubble should rather be casting or invoking the event, then it'll be easier for debugging as well. So let's do that. We'll do a public static Unity event, and we're going to pass it the what is it? That's just a string. Dialog processed, and that's just going to equal the new Unity events. Just want to see, what does next dialog give us? It's just the next string, right? Yeah. So that goes through the whole chain. You get to the end of the chain, which should then show you the dialog choice. there we have a list of dialog choices. Okay. But we can get that from the data object. Cool. So on dialog, let's just call it on dialog choices. And we're going to fire that off. It's public static, cool. When we reach the end of the dialog, here we go, at the end of the road. No more dialogue ending or last dialogue showing choices. Okay. Then over here we can invoke and we can pass it along our dialog data object. And that is where this guy can listen for that. So UI speech bubble dot on dialog choices, and let's rename this to call it dialog choices. Remove that listener, and this is going to be dialog data object. And then we can run through the choices over there. Okay, with this one, we also need a reference to our pool. And with that, then we can run through the choices here with a for loop. And then with each of those, we're going to go UI dialog choice equals the pool dot get from object pool. And with this object pool, it returns the exact type we need to use it in, because we have that this inheritance over here with the generic over here. So we get our dialog choice, and then we can display it somehow, or I mean, getting it from the pool is already going to give us a visual. We just need some way to then set the data, and we can do that with a public void set dialog choice, and that's going to be a string for choice. Well, actually, no, it's going to be dialog choice. That's going to be the type. Because dialog choice, that type has got the string, and it's also got the next dialog. So if we select that one, we want to then go into the next dialog already. Okay, so if we want to set the dialog here, we're going to need using TM Pro, and then a serverless field for TM Pro text, and that's going to be choice text. So choice text dot text is then equaling dialog choice dot choice. We'll need to think about if we have to allow for like wrapping and maybe dynamically adjusting the height. But if we keep our choices fairly short, and I think that's it's a good trend as well, is keeping the choices quite short so that the player doesn't have to read through a mountain of text as well to figure out which one is best. And then let's also just keep a reference for if we do select it. So dialog choice, and then over here I'm just going to say this dialog choice equals dialog choice. Because if we select it over here, then we can go next is dialog choice dot next dialog data. And let's just do dialogues 0 so we can kind of see what the next one is there. Just so we get some kind of useful information that we can debug with. Okay, so set dialog choice, UI dialog, dot set. And then we're going to hand it dialog dot choices I. And that should create a dialog object for each, or a choice object for each of those choices once we reach the end of that dialog. Let's try that out. Okay, so we just need a reference there for the pool. The pool needs a reference to the canvas, or the canvas group. And nothing else needs a reference because we are using Unity events. Now we just need to check our data. Do we have choices? Yes, we do have choices there. Okay, it says more dialogue to come. Okay, you are mistaken about that. Let's go check the code. So next dialogue, no, that's fine, it's here. So it said more dialogue to come. So next dialogue is returning a bool. Let's say if it's bigger or equal. See if that does the trick. More to come. And then, okay, so we are getting somewhere. Dialog choice 17. Oh, the text element wasn't referenced yet. Yeah. So in our prefab over here, we just need to assign the text element, which is that. Let's take a look. Okay, so there we got the last dialog showing choices. First choice, second choice. First choice selected. Oh, how are you? Second choice. And if we look at the data, there, oh, how are you is A, and that one is B. So yes, our dialog choices are selecting correctly now. We just have like 0 feedback there for some reason. I'd love to know why. Yeah, it looks like it's got the disabled color though. No. It is very odd. You see, it's supposed to be dark. Got a canvas. Oh, the alpha for the canvas is at 0.5. What? Why is this canvas 0.5? Man. Because I didn't adjust over here. This needs to be 1. Okay, regardless, we are getting everything. And there was one thing I noticed was that when it went to, yeah, so if next dialog then it rebuilds, let's just do the rebuild after. So just forcing to rebuild the UI layout. Otherwise, we got text that was breaking the boundaries of its parent there. So
was that for the speech bubble?
yeah,
Oh yeah, I saw
there we
that.
go. So now that fits properly, and we
Cool.
have first choice and second choice. Okay, so now that we have that working, let's see the dialog choice. There's a way to, I just want to Google that. Ready, job, enter, trigger, UI. Event trigger. There, on pointer enter is what I'm looking for. But that inherits from event trigger. I pointer enter handler. Yes, that's what I want. I want those two, and then I can just go first of all using event systems, and then interface, or implement that interface, and implement that interface. Because what I want to do here is just using tweening, and on pointer enter, do transform dot local scale, or not transform dot do scale, and the end value is going to be vector3.1 multiplied by 1.05, and for a quick duration of 0.1. And then the opposite is going to be just to scale it to vector 3.1. And on the exits, we're going to just set its value to this. Just so that there's absolutely no way that the scales could get out of whack. So that should just give us a little bit of feedback as well when we hover over the element. And there we go. Now we get a little bit of a scaling effect happening when we hover over that. Even 0.05 is a bit much. Just make that 0.02. Next, we need to pass along which of the dialog choices was selected. That says the choice. Okay, so when we interact, let's go back and check. We are currently interacting with the dialog controller. The dialog controller performs the interact, which then calls interact on the dialog interaction, which has a dialog data object already set up. Hmm. Then the on dialog interact is performed. Given a reference to this dialog object, and that is then dealt with over here in UI speech bubble with a dialog interaction. Okay. And there's our choices. So over here then, let's do a void dialog choice selected, and we could take in then a dialog choice. And then let's pass a reference for this along with our Unity event. So over here, we're going to do a Unity action then, basically a callback. So that when this gets, well, this Unity action can be invoked elsewhere then. So we're going to pass along then the current dialog, and we're going to tell it to call back to this one over here. And our Unity action just needs to have the dialog choice as a variable as well. So basically we're looking for a Unity action that has parameter of type dialog choice then. And in our dialog choices over here, we're going to do Unity action, which is using Unity engine.events, and it's going to take what did we just put in the dialog choice? This is going to be on dialog choice selected, and we're just going to store that. We're going to pass it along actually to our dialog. So set dialog, let's just paste that in over here. We're going to need Unity engine.events, and then over here we can store the Unity action for later use, basically. So when we do select it, then we can just go and invoke that event and pass along pass along dialog choice. Okay, so maybe let's just run through that one more time over here. So the speech bubble is in charge of passing through or going through the rest of the dialogue. Once it reaches the last dialogue, it shows the choices. Then it broadcasts an event to say this is the dialogue object so that the choices can be shown, and this is the callback that needs to be invoked once that choice has been selected. So we're avoiding having like any direct references. We're not telling the choice to tell a singleton this is the choice that was made, but rather, passing along just a Unity action that can be called at a later stage. And that Unity action, we're just expecting a dialog choice variable along with it, so that we can actually just come right back over here, and it still makes sense because we're working with, we start the dialogue out, we process the dialogue until we reach the end, we display the choices, and once we have a choice, we're going to continue the dialogue from there. So we don't have like the same system, the same mechanic being written or being managed in multiple different places. So it comes back to this UI speech bubble script. So the dialogue then gets choiced, or the choice gets selected, and then we're going to go set the dialogue. So we can just reuse that function, except that it is getting its object from there. So let's modify this bit and have the object being passed through instead of just being read from there. In which case our dialog over here, this Unity event, that needs to include the object, and this is going to then start off with, let's rename this over here to starting dialog data object. That makes more sense now. Okay, so now our set dialog can be reused because we are going to pass it the current dialog interaction. So still interacting on this particular pigeon, and then we're just going to give it the new dialog choice dot next dialog data. Yeah, cool. And then that should just go on to the next one. Also over here, we should probably do a check to see if there are actually choices before just invoking it. So if the dialog object dot dialog choices dot count, make it 0. Then we can do that. Now, were there any references that are needed? Don't think so. Okay, clearly there were. UI speech bubble 54. Let's see. The data object, was it not set? Oh, I renamed the starting, the variable over there. Okay, well, this is a good opportunity to actually show you guys using Unity Unity engine dot serialization, yeah. And then because we changed the name of this variable, it lost its reference. So if you've done that and you're sitting with like, 50 scriptable objects that now have all lost their references, you just go, it's previously serialized as.
Oh, that's cool.
Let's just Google that real quick.
Christian.
What's up?
Formerly serialized as, that's what it is, not previously. Formerly serialized as, and then you can give it the name over here, which was that. Yeah, so now where there was a missing reference, we should have no missing references anymore. We go check our data. The data's fine. Let's check the units. So
I
they,
assume
yeah,
that's pretty slow since it, I don't know, it's like a string and it's trying to find that reference somewhere.
Not entirely sure actually.
Huh. I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's nice.
Okay. So what happened there? I think the index probably needs to be reset or something. That's if not interacting. Otherwise, if it is interacting, it goes to the next dialogue. So we probably need to tell it is not interacting first. So let's go interacting with false.
Eric, do you use tweening for UI as well?
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Oh, that's a big shortcut. Very nice.
Yeah. So I'm adding in a yield return null over here. So basically I'm setting the interacting to false, which is going to then invalidate this while loop. But it's not actually going to invalidate it. Because in the very next command, we're setting it back to true then, and then starting up a coroutine. So then I'm gonna need a reference to the previous one rather, and then I'm just gonna kill it directly. I'm gonna do a coroutine variable over here for what's it called, track interpreter, what? Interactor. So tracking interactor routine, and that's gonna then be, where do I start it there? Just go and equal it like so. And over here, yes, I'm gonna set it to false, but I'm also just gonna say stop coroutine tracking interactor. And I'm gonna then say this equals null. But that doesn't actually matter. That's fine. We just want to stop it, set interacting to false, so that when we do set the dialog, it will then run this section again and start up a new coroutine. I think that should do it. The way we can test that is actually just doing a little bit of an int for routines started, and then in the beginning of our coroutine we can just increase that, and at the bottom we can just go minus, and let's just make that int a serialized field, so we can know for sure that there is only ever one routine, otherwise we're going to get some unexpected behavior. Okay, so that was on Scriptable. There we've got routines. Okay, one coroutine started. We get our choices. And then we get two coroutines. But that did work. Okay. Okay, cool. So I think stopping the coroutine means that it's actually not going to get to the end of that. So that might not be a valid way to check if multiple routines are running. Obviously going to spam the console, but we'll be able to see if it happens on the same frame there. Okay, routine running. I mean, it's running multiple frames a second, so that doesn't work either. Okay, we'll just trust that it's working. What we do need to do is once a choice is selected, then we need to return the rest of the items to the pool. So set dialog choice, we've got on dialog choice selected. Let's do another one here as well. Well, I suppose we could just go and probably add it on. So undialog choice selected plus equals undialog choice selected. Yes. So the Unity action is basically like a list of the functions that can be called at a later stage. So we can just add to that list and say we want this function to be called as well. But now the naming, let's just put a underscore on that. Yeah, okay, that's clearer. Okay, so then if the dialog choice does get selected here, we want to return all those objects or all those choices back to the pool. So then let's keep a list of those choices. And when we do get one from the pool, we can just go and add it. And then we can go loop through that. Loop through choices.count and go pool dot return to object pool choices I. And then we're going to clear out choices right after that. And we can actually get rid of that because we're not using it. Hello. Okay, yeah, disappeared. Rude. Okay, so let's see, what did we have here? UI dialog choice. I think there wasn't a follow on object there. Yeah, okay, so there was a dialog choice without an object. So now we need to do a check for if there's no object. Basically, that is the end of all the dialogue. And the basically clicking the choice just ends everything. Oops. So UI dialog choice, we select the choice. Okay, so the null is actually coming from the log then. So let's get rid of that. And then on dialog choice is going to be read back over here. The choice is selected. And there it sets the next dialog data. So over here, if dialog data object is null, then we're going to do some stuff and just break out of that. And what we can do here is find out, so there at the end of the road, number dialog ending interacting equals false. And if interacting is false, then it's just going to scale out the UI. So that'll end that, but the choices still need to go back, which actually I believe they will. Let's check. So hello, first choice, rude, and okay, so the choice is closed, but the dialogue did not. And the last bit of dialogue, what did we get? Okay, and then rude. Choice 1 selected. Stops the coroutine. Interacting becomes false. Okay, got it. So if dialog choice dot next dialog object equals null, then we simply make it false. Or rather, let's just say if it is not equal to null, then we're going to stop the coroutine first. Otherwise, we're just going to set interacting to false. And then we don't actually have to set the dialogue. We're just going to let it run out, basically. And which means we don't need that check there, because it won't even get to that point. Okay, there we go. We have some choices going on, and we can end the dialogue right there. And that one as well also works perfectly. Okay, so there's a problem. You can just keep clicking on the character when there's choices at play. So what we can do is let's just have like a bit of a bool for awaiting choice. And then if there is a choice, so over here, we invoke it, and then we can say awaiting choice equals true. And when we set the dialog, say if awaiting choice return. So basically do nothing. Yeah, so you can interact, but it's not going to move forward with the dialogue until you make a choice. Oh boy. Okay, so that broke. We're not actually setting it back to false anyway. That's why. So once the choice is made, then awaiting choice equals false. Yeah, that's very nice. Kind of reminds me of the short hike type dialogue.
Is there a way to like prevent you from, like, if you're done talking to that character, from clicking on them again and then instead just play like the final last bit of their dialogue?
Yeah. Okay. Playing out what, just the final after your
Yeah,
choice?
Yeah. So instead of
Okay.
like when you said goodbye and then when you try to go back to them, they're like, just leave me alone or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, let's do that. But first, I did notice that the choices, when you get them from the pool, sometimes they go out of order. So the get from pool, just got to go and say UI dialog choice dot transform dot set as last sibling. So just that as soon as a new one comes in, it gets put at the bottom, at the bottom, at the bottom. So basically one will always be at the top, and yeah, it'll be chronological. Okay, so to have like so we have a starting dialogue, and then we should have like a revisit dialogue, perhaps. Let's think of a word for that. Yeah, we'll go with revisit. Think of a different name later on. So once the interaction is fully complete, then we want this to be the interaction dialogue. So maybe we're already passing that. Could just add it on. No, because then I have to adjust the other thing as well. We'll add a public void dialog completed, and then we can say starting dialog equals revisit dialog. And then we can just call dialog completed from the speech bubble. Once everything is complete, and we're going to check that. So this would be after a choice, and that would be the end of just plain dialogue. End it there. And then in here we can say dialog interaction dot dialog completed. That'll just tell the interaction that it was done, fully complete. That'll come back here and then set the revisit dialog. Okay. That means we can create another one here. Franklin intro, and something like that. Not a very friendly guy. And then we can assign it to, okay, so there's the revisit dialog. So the revisit dialog is according to whichever character it is on. So you can have different characters with different revisit dialog there. So let's see. And then if we re-click it, and then it's go away, you miserable mutt. And that disappears. Okay, there you go.
That's really cool. Jet, when it comes to remembering of choices, will it also be possible for other characters to remember choices that you said to someone else? Like maybe they go and talk to that character, and then they heard what you said to him, and they're like, "Nope, not trusting you." Will that be too complicated?
Yeah, that would require some
Next level
interesting
data handling.
architecture. Yeah.
Cause yeah, I tried doing that for my honors game and failed miserably. So
Okay, actually, no, it's not too difficult. Let's simplify it. So let's see, we've got, do we have like an overlord? Manages dialog controller, yes. Okay.
so this one is connected to all of the other systems.
The dialog controller, it basically just listens for input and then it looks for a dialog interaction script on
Ah,
the buildings,
okay.
basically. It could be like a pot or a pan as well.
Yeah,
Basically just looking for this script and then interacting with it.
cool.
So what we can do is actually just store a history of all the dialogue that has been visited.
Yeah.
And check that. So field post of dialog data objects.
So this script is attached to the character itself.
No, it's just it's a managing script. It's just in the
Oh, it's in the world.
yeah
Okay.
managing script just there under managers.
Cool.
So we've got a list of the dialogue history. And basically because of the way that it's split up, being that choices lead to dialogue, we don't have to record which choices are made, we just have to record which dialogues have been played out, basically. Which makes it really
that's
easy.
actually, yeah.
Then it's just about having a list of all the dialogue you've ever interacted with, and if you have another character can simply just check, has this dialogue object been played?
Yeah.
Check if the history contains it. If it does contain it, then do something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you approach this the same way? Let's say it was quest based. So if
Yeah.
you failed a quest, okay.
Yeah, exactly that. Okay, so we've got a dialogue history now. Our dialogue controller, let's make this
Is this a very optimized way of doing it?
well, yeah, it is an optimized
Considering
one.
you're storing all that data.
It's not that much. It's just a list. It's actually really, really light.
Nice.
I mean, you could serialize different sections of this, or if it really got big, but like a list will be able to take hundreds of thousands of these objects, no problem.
And you could save that to like a JSON file for when for when
Exactly.
people
Yeah.
come back. Okay.
Yeah, I would literally just serialize this list to a JSON and save it out.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, so when you make this a singleton, I'm going to go steal my singleton script from another project. Let's make singleton of type dialog controller. You'll notice it's the same kind of syntax as the object pooler. It's just that when you call singleton or dialog controller.instance, it will return this particular type and not just like a game object or something. So it's just that singleton script and that object pool script, they're a stock standard in every single project. And you can find these scripts on my GitLab snippets if you want to steal them from there. Otherwise, they are most definitely in channels in this Discord. So you can just use the search feature at the top right and search for object pool or singleton. Okay, so let's do a public void dialog. Do we want to record it when it starts or when it completes? Start.
So this will also work like if you've talked to, depending on another character that you've talked to, and if you talk in the order of the characters you talk to them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, all the characters can reference this because
Cool.
it's a singleton.
So you can basically say, so they will know if you've talked to that guy or if you haven't talked to him yet.
Yeah, so we can just do it this way. Full dialog interacted. Let's say has dialog interacted and the dialog object reference. And then we can just simply return dialog history, dialog contains, dialog data object. So it's just whether or not it contains it or not. That'll return true or false. So
That's
any of the
really
other
cool.
ones can go and check that.
Nice.
And then dialog started, we can then initiate that from dialog interaction. Once we interact, we could say dialog controller, dialog instance, dialog started, and the starting dialog object. So there we go. Now that's in there. Okay, so the follow-on ones don't actually come through here. So let's move that line to UI speech bubble when we go and set the dialogue over here. And yeah, right there. And that should take care of our choices being included. Let's see. There we go, choice was added. And if we go try a different bird, second choice, there we go. We are now getting all the choices. Okay, so now if we want one of the birds to react to having a choice already been played, let's see, how can we do that? Let's do it with a Unity event. And not the Unity event kind like that. So it's going to be a serialized field Unity event on choice. Let's say on choice visited. And on choice not visited. And then we can have a list of choices, dialog object, choices to check. So when we interact, we could say, now we want to figure out, should all be valid or any valid? Let's do any valid. We want to make this kind of as generic as possible, that it can be used in a variety of situations. So that's why this is a list to begin with, because you might want to say if choice A was made, or choice D, or choice E, or whatever. If any of those choices were made, then do something. And in this case, we want if any of those choices were made, so any valid. And you might want to make a variation on this to say if all are valid, if all those choices have been made, then do something extra. Like you've spoken to the barkeeper, and you've spoken to the coroner, and you've spoken to the butcher, and then because you've spoken to all three of those people, then this person will give you some different kind of information. So then you could do an all valid kind of case.
Yeah, to set it for each circumstance individually.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we could actually do an enum perhaps,
Yeah, please.
or public enum.
Be working for you.
Validity type, and then we can do all valid or any valid. And then over here we can say validity type. And now that we've got a lot more variables here, we need to separate this into a few sections. So this is going to be choice persistence, perhaps. And this is going to move down to here. And it's going to be okay, so choices to check. The validity type is then going to be any valid or all valid. Let's do valid, and then do a check for a for loop through choices to check. Counts. And then inside of here, we're going to do bool underscore valid equals dialog controller dot instance dot has dialog interacted, and we're checking with choices to check I. So we're checking if this particular choice has been interacted with, and valid over here. Now we can say if validity type equals any valid, then valid equals true. And we can also do int valid count equals 0. Oh right, and we have to say if underscore valid. Or rather, let's do
Sorry, the choices that are saved in this dialog system, as what are they saved as?
so the dialog choice, there's a type called dialog choice.
Yeah.
Where is dialog choice? Yeah. So there's a class called dialog choice, which just
Okay.
holds a reference to next data object, dialog data object. That's just a string and a data object paired. All we need to know is dialog data object.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Cool.
So if this one is valid and the validity type is any valid, then we're just going to say valid is true. And we can actually just jump straight out of that. So we can just break. Otherwise, if it is valid and the validity type equals all valid, then we're going to go valid count plus plus, and then outside of the for loop, if the valid count is equal to the count of the choices, it's going to be 5, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay, that's fine. And that would mean valid is then correct. And if valid, then we're going to do on choice visited dot invoke. Else we need to do on choice not visited dot invoke. Then let's just move this all into its own method. Check choices visited. Okay, so we interact with Pigeon. It checks if any of the required choices have been visited before, and if those choices have been visited, then it'll invoke this Unity event. Otherwise, this is Unity event over here. And we also just need to, let's do, if the count is bigger than 0, rather, if the count is 0, then let's just skip this. So if there's no choices to check, then it's just not going to do anything. So now that looks like this. We have the validity type here. We're checking if all are valid or any are valid. So we can go with any. We're checking if some of these choices have been visited before. So like if was played, that's the one over there, which is based on the option of second choice. So if second choice is chosen, then that one will be triggered. And if it was visited, then what we can do is, now the beauty of doing it this way is that you can literally add any script on here and just trigger it. So if you have very specific interactions,
That is insanely cool.
yeah, like if you need
Like
him to do a
starting
backflip
missions
and then
and
play
stuff
a
like
camera
that.
thing, you can just do that.
Yeah, and starting missions.
Exactly. You could
Yeah.
have a mission starter script over here that then just fires off,
That is
or
insanely
a
cool.
give item script, or a do backflip script.
This is so cool.
But then yes, you could do absolutely anything with that. We could just do,
So this is what this is the kind of flexible dialogue system I was trying to create for my game. And this is really cool.
add a do backflip. Okay, public void. Do da backflip. Now we're going to do backflip with tweening. That's going to be interesting. Okay, let's do a really jank one. Transform dot do move. Do move y. gonna move let's go 0.5 meters into the air for a duration of 0.2. Then on completion of that, oh no, not on completion of that. Oh yeah, okay, let's do on completion of that. Then we can do the transform dot to move y negative 0.5, 4.2, and we're going to set a delay on that as well. Dot on complete dot set delay 4.5. Then at the same time, we're going to do rotate. Let's do local rotate. And the end value is going to be vector 3 dot right times by times by 360. And that's going to be for duration of so it's 0.2, so 0.9 in total. Okay, let's see what that looks like. I think that's more of a front flip actually. Let's just reverse that. This is going to be interesting. And then this one can do the backflip. Now, which birdie is this? Okay, guy in the middle. So only he will do a backflip if we have chosen second choice at some point. So let's just test without doing anything. Okay, yeah, nothing happened there. Second choice. Okay, it did something. I think the 360 doesn't help. So we're going to do like 180 and then on complete. Do the other one. Do the rest of the rotate. And let's just throw in a log over here as well. Okay, second choice, and then whoa, there he goes. He backflipped. Yeah, he definitely backflipped. Okay, maybe do local rotate wasn't the right thing to do there.
He went off the map.
I think that was gimbal lock that just like messed him up entirely there.
That's what happens when you use too much caffeine.
Second choice, okay. Okay, maybe do rotate is not the right thing.
Do shake rotation.
What is this shake rotation?
It shakes him rotationally.
You translate that right.
So it doesn't necessarily have to do it the first time you click on him.
Well, no, he won't because you haven't visited that choice yet.
But if you
What the hell?
Let's do vector 3 dot up. Let's just make him do a spin. How about that?
That's a juice overdose.
When the juice too good.
Okay, yeah, so rotating by 360 just rounds back to 0.
Oh yeah, that's true.
We're just gonna make both of them vector 3 dot up by 1.
Jared,
Yeah.
quick question. Just because we did it in GX, if you already had like an edit the script, would it be fastest to add a button to the inspector to like test out the backflip without going through the
Yes.
dialogue? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you should always. What?
Now he's really mad.
Okay. Maybe let's just do a shake rotation. That's enough
Yeah,
feedback.
I mean, you could do a shake rotation and scale, and then it'll be like, bloop.
Yeah. Let's do a shake rotation.
Does that give you squash and stretch?
No, it's just rotation, but it's you'll see now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He still like plops himself down at minus 0.5. Do move Y needs to move back to 0, not to.
Oops.
So
Yeah,
it
that
jumps
easy
up and rotates. I mean, yeah, well, does a shake rotation.
Yes.
Yeah, he's glitching hard now. He doesn't like that you made that choice before.
Uit groot geskrukt daar.
It looks like he's getting shivers down his spine.
Oh no! Coffee overdose again.
Ah, yeah.
What the hell is happening?
Is that a bad
Oh,
day?
I think you're asking him to shake while he's still shaking, and
Yeah.
then it throws off the axis. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
exactly that, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, we got choices. We got persistence and an ending choice visual. No, not that. We did visit a dialogue, sort of. Well, we did visit a dialogue checks. We'll call that done. Yeah. I mean, the rest of this is quite easy to do. The time-based choices would just be a coroutine. You would just have to decide how you want to handle what happens when the time runs out.
Jared, quick question. You know when you set for a specific choice and then they have to react to it, are they going to react to it always on the first time you click on them after you've made that choice? Or can you do it later as well?
So this one is a bit weird because it's already got that same dialogue chain. But essentially, you would visit a different NPC, you would go through that choice, and then when you come to this NPC in the middle, he would then react based on the fact that you have visited that choice before.
Okay.
You could handle that however you want with a separate script.
Okay.
Yeah. So like over here, you do want it at the start though, because if you wanted to change out your dialogue to a different dialogue chain based on if that choice was made, then you can. You would do that at the start.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like depending on how meta you want this thing to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. No, this is really helpful. Thank you, Jared.
Cool. Yeah, this is quite nice. I think I might use something like this in the future.
I haven't been keeping up. Have you done a Let's Dev quest system or mission system yet?
No,
Dude, that
no,
would
I
be
haven't.
cool.
But
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
last
yeah, I
time
wouldn't
did
mind
that-
remaking my quest system. Quite a few things that I would like to improve.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the also one of the most difficult systems for me to make, because like there's a ton of things that happen in a quest before, during, and after.
Yeah.
Like you have to look out for, and that's
Yeah.
like a ton of stuff to juggle.
Yeah, you got to do something similar to this, where you have Unity events that you can just fire off generically,
Yeah.
and then specific instances can handle those events differently.
Yeah. Because if you look at games like what is it called? Uncharted, or I mean that's a linear game, you don't actually select your choices, but the stuff that happens up following up, and then events just continue. It's just damn, that takes a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
I kind of wrote something like a quest system, but it's not really a quest system. It's more like if you do these things and this happens and so on. So I guess I could just put like visuals on it and make it selectable. Like you can choose which one, and then it's like kind of a quest system. It's more an event system, but
Hmm.
Yeah.
to try making a quest system again.
I
With, like,
know.
Hmm?
Sorry. The Witcher 3 has a pretty insane quest system.
I haven't played The Witcher 3 too much.
Yeah, it does have a pretty good one.
Yeah.
But
It's
I mean, there is a
very
defined
detailed.
set of quest types, though. Like it's a fetch quest, or it's a traversal quest, or a killing quest, or something.
Yeah.
Like there are defined quest types.
Yeah.
It's not overly complex in how dynamic the quest needs to be.
True. Yeah.
Even of like Far Cry games, it's always just like collect these things or shoot these people or overtake
Yeah.
this thing or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, even in The Witcher 3, despite him having these defined quest states, they still do a pretty good job of not making it feel too repetitive. Like you still feel like you're continuing with the story as
Mhm.
things get more difficult and you fight like new things you haven't seen before. And like, yeah, that's pretty insanely well done.
Yeah, it's about those steps, and just shuffling them up and having
Yeah.
variation in the steps of the quest.
Yes.
Yeah, and then
That's
coupling
it.
that with dialogue and cinematics.
Yeah, and also then there's the quest tracking, whether you're tracking that quest or not, and if you're in the area or not, and if you're not tracking the quest and you still go do that, and yeah, there's a bunch of stuff to keep
Like-
track of.
Or like if you have multiple endings, then if you do certain quests, it'll take away some of them. I guess that
Yeah.
could also be a thing.
Yeah,
It shouldn't be too hard though. I think it's just be sitting with it and making it over time.
as The Witcher 3 has like how many 36 different endings
Holy
that I've
shit!
heard of. Yeah, that's a big game.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.